sit back a little more, it'll pull some heat off the backside of the GPU. Does it count as liquid nitrogen use if I just like spray it out of the tank hose at the system? No? Getting a no from the judge. Does not count as liquid nitrogen use. So here's the end of the demo. We're over 12,000 frames drawn, 12,000, approaching 13,000 frames rendered now. That should be about double, not quite. It's close to double some of our original scores on single card. So that's pretty good scaling. 26768. Let me look up where they are. Okay, so Kanepen is at 31,545. He's on liquid nitrogen. We'll get there eventually, but we'll work our way up through it. Paul is at 27,402. That's pretty damn close for first run, but I'm gonna need more than that. I don't know. He might have a higher power limit, might have a higher overclock. Jay is not on here yet, but he did tweet a photo of his build, so he should be on there soon. So we've got about 1,000 points I need to gain to at least get ahead of Paul, which is a lot. Definitely gonna be a little tough without going to water or higher power or something, but see how far we can get. I kind of want to take these cards apart and disconnect all the LEDs because I bet that'd get me a couple watts back. I think it could work. That might knock some of the things over. Jay will cry. I can't in good faith do it. Jay will cry on Twitter. It wasn't running yet. Seriously? The score should be in, oh, okay, all right. We just lost video. 26,830, that's not too bad. So here's the situation. We moved over to the other set because I need space. The first card I have is amazing, and it can do a 1200 megahertz offset on memory and pretty high on core, like 80 megahertz or so offset. Obviously that's an offset, so it's from whatever your base number is. But the second card seems to be having difficulty above 900 megahertz for memory offset, and the core is not strong either. So I think what I need to do, I'm gonna start with disconnecting all of the LEDs from both these cards. That should buy me a couple watts to play around with, hopefully. I'm hoping for like 10, but we'll see. And then I'm also going to, just while they're open anyway, put liquid metal on the GPUs. We don't generally recommend liquid metal for GPUs just because it's already direct die contact to the cooler. So thermal paste will do almost everything that liquid metal will do, and it's not going to dry out in the same way that liquid metal sometimes does, and it's just a little bit easier to work with. But for this instance, we're going to go with liquid metal because by the time I'm below zero, I probably am taking the card apart again anyway for a water cooler. So let's get rid of these LEDs and get some liquid metal on there. We'll use conductanot, we'll insulate it and see if it improves things just by way of bringing down the temperature. As you bring down the temperature, frequency will scale up on its own. So hopefully that helps us out here. Okay, so for this one, everything you need if you do take one of these apart is in the Gamers Nexus teardown toolkit, which is on store.gamersnexus.net. And we're also working on one of our mod mats. So I'm gonna just use our Phillips head screwdrivers mostly for this. We only really need to show one of these. It'll be the same process for both. This is the one I've already taken apart because you can see I've added a thermal pad in there. And that should be helping sink some of the heat. This card's also gonna go into the primary slot rather than secondary, because it was performing a lot better that way previously, although it shouldn't really matter. Okay, there's that. This contact is not very good for these, so maybe I should actually just replace these thermal pads. EVGA's thermal pads, this wasn't us, they just don't make full coverage on the memory. So a little concerned about that, but we do have memory sensors on here as part of ICX. Here's the first LED, get rid of that one. All right. So first LED, this one right here, that's the big LED. So that's unplugged now. We're not going to plug that back in. I'm tempted to run these fans to external cables as well, but I don't think I have enough. I have some, but I could take one of these out and look at the amperage, the current, and figure out how many watts it's pulling. But okay, let's just do liquid metal. Once we're trying to reroute the fans, at that point we might as well just do a shunt resistor mod anyway. So nail polish is just used to protect the SMDs, the surface mount devices, and prevent a short if the liquid metal runs off the side of the GPU and happens to land where some surface mount devices are. So it'll prevent completing the circuit. Pretty simple. Now because there is thermal paste mixed in there, so there's not the greatest contact, I'm also going to cover it with Kapton tape, just to really protect the GPU. Alright, so this is conductanate. Well, I need a couple drops, and it will need to be on the cold plate and on the GPU. This is, as the name implies, conductive, and so you need to not get it on any other components on the board.
Shut down.
The application also must be very thin. Having to go over these bumpy letters on the surface of the GPU is extremely annoying. Like ideally I'd probably sand that off, but at some point we're going to hit diminishing returns and we're going to eventually go cold anyway. So as a reminder, this stuff will not work well once we're really cold, but it will work extremely well anywhere above 0. Even below 0 a little bit, but not for liquid nitrogen or anything. It's actually one of Jay's pitfalls in the last challenge when we did this. He used liquid metal once he was going below 0 with, I think, dry ice or something, or chilled water, and it wasn't as good. You really don't need much with this stuff. You don't want it to look like a runny pool of liquid. So I've got a little bit of that going on the right side. I'm just going to drag it around and distribute it evenly. Okay, it looks pretty good. So it took a while, but I was able to beat Paul's score. He was at 27,452, I think, and finally got up to 27,461 with all of this mess. This is about as far as these cards can go without moving to a different cooling solution. So Jay currently, I had passed him, but he's at, I think he gained an extra 1,000 points in there somewhere, so he's probably hooked up his air conditioner or something like that. But I've been busy trying to just catch up to Paul's score. We've been doing all these reviews and things. So Paul was my main target for tonight. Jay has mostly been occupied beating himself. That sounded wrong. Jay has been busy contesting his own score. So currently we're past Paul. That's probably going to change by the time this uploads. That's how these things go. But as of right now, we're past him. And I want to go over a couple of the things that got us past where Paul is. So I do not have an unlock to be BIOS. I'm not sure if Jay talks about that in their videos. But we don't have an unlock to be BIOS. That's our biggest limiter right now. For scoring potential, the things I found perform the best here, if anyone wants to take away anything, in some loose testing, it looked like disabling the Windows GPU scheduling management stuff under graphics settings. Disabling that appears to produce better scores than enabling it. I haven't done a lot of A/B testing, but at least in Port Royal, it looks like it does better with that feature off. And that was worth several hundred points, assuming the quick back-to-back tests were something to judge off of. Secondly, I did some memory tuning on the system RAM, and that did bring us up probably, it was worth about 30 points somewhere. So brought down TRFC specifically into the 300s. It was originally auto setting to 700, which is insane and terrible. I brought down 4 active window. Significantly, it was 48 auto, which is also insane and terrible. So brought that down originally to 28, and then down closer to 26 or 4, somewhere in there. And then a couple others like write latency, CKE, a couple of the TRRD settings, LNS. So basically tuned a bunch of the memory. That was worth a couple points. And what was worth the most, actually kind of somewhat surprising, somewhat not, was reducing the fan speed on the GPUs. So I was blasting them at 100% fan speed to try and get every little bit of frequency I could out of the lower temperature. But actually what that was doing was costing me more power than I was gaining in temperature reduction. So we were hitting